to begin. Welcome everyone to Just Food's 2022 Spring Forum. I would like to introduce Cheryl Durant, our President of the Board of Just Food.
Thanks, Shari. Welcome everyone. Happy to see so many faces. This is our third go around for the, forum. Yeah, this is the third year of COVID, Shari.
Yes, third year, fourth forum, I think, but third year, yep.
You know, the last two I thought were pretty good and pretty interactive because as an organization, we want to build our relationship with our CSA members and our farmer network, and hear from our partners how they are coping during these times and how Just Food can be a greater benefit to all of you. We're going to be covering a lot of stuff tonight. In particular, we want to work to rebuild our toolbox so it is more relevant to the current times and more relevant to our CSA network and farmer network. And I'm going to turn it back over to Shari and Ruth, who are both on our advisory and who will lead the forum tonight.
Okay, I'm Ruth Katcher. I'm with Clinton Hill CSA. We are going into our 21st year, which is just shocking. And I wanted to talk for a minute about the toolbox so you know what it is. When I took over as leading our core group in 2014, one of the things that I found incredibly helpful were a group of tip sheets on the Just Food website that told you everything you needed to know about how to start and run a CSA. So when I realized I knew nothing about how our finances worked, I would go to the tip sheet and study it up quickly so I could sound a little bit intelligent in core meetings as if I knew what I was talking about. Over time, though, we've come to realize that the tip sheets, as I'm sure some of you know who've been with CSAs for a long time, the world has changed and CSAs have changed. We still get great food to our members, but in the years since I've joined and started leading our CSA, we have moved from people signing up for volunteer hours on clipboards to doing it online. We've moved our sign up from paper contracts and mailing checks to doing that through online ways. We've moved from stapling flyers onto trees, which I still feel guilty about, to posting on social media. So we figured that, people still want to join CSAs and run CSAs, but we better bring this up to date. And so one of the reasons, the main issue on our agenda tonight is how can we be most useful as we rework our toolbox and these wonderful tip sheets to take into account the fact that this is the year 2022 now. I want to start with one case study for what we have needed to do. A few years ago, we realized that over the years, we have gained a website and we have gained ways to email our members and communicate with our members online. They've grown up organically over the years in many strange and unusual online platforms created by core members who've long since left the CSA and in some cases have left the state. So 2 years ago, right before the pandemic, one of our core members, Rachel, who's on the Zoom right now, spent a couple of months in the off season taking all of these really odd platforms, some of which we couldn't access at all, and putting them in one place in a way that would be, we hope, impervious to core members leaving in the future, and to make it a really broad tool that would help us all. Rachel, do you want to talk about that a bit at this point? What you did and why?
Yeah. So basically, we had a different place where our domain name was stored, a different server for our emails, a different place for our website. Like everything was really separate. So what we kind of did was we revamped our Squarespace site that was like a low fee at the time. And then we invested in having their G Suite integration, which allowed us to have a storage system, and it's also their business. So it has it replaced our Dropbox a little bit so that we can store our files in a place that's more collaborative for the rest of the CSA to run more effectively. It also helps us, it actually brought down our cost of our site, because if you have the G Suite, you no longer have to pay for the site. We moved our domain over to Squarespace, which also brought down some of our costs. And then also with the Squarespace site, we're finding a lot of we can easily put our social media there, and we redesigned the page to be a lot more trying to hit that more social aspect. So we were able to do that as well. Trying to think, is there any other parts, Ruth, that you want me to touch on? I can get into more details, but that's the basics of what we did, is we took a couple sites and put it in Squarespace or G Suite.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of the basics. I think we'll probably get into some other things as we go farther. But, this is one way the world has changed so much since we started doing this. And, we all love, I think one of the best things about CSA is the local nature, the face-to-face communication with our members and occasionally with our farmer, and in a world that is just so increasingly corporate and faceless. This is one of the joys of CSA. But with that said, the back end of it needs to be up to date so we can spend our time not digging through files, but interacting with our members and our farmer and doing the part of the job that we all love. So we wanted to go through, I know for those of us who are on the occasionally used core listserv, these are topics that come up, but we wanted to go through some of the topics we thought would be important to update in the toolbox with these tip sheets, and see what you thought or what would be most helpful either for you as people starting CSAs or for people updating your CSA and wanting more information as you go along with an ongoing venture. So I thought we could just, we have a list of topics, but we also want to hear from you what you think is most important and what you need to learn as you go on. So, I guess starting, sometimes it's helpful to go through the season as a season. So registration is one of the big topics. I know that we use a platform called Wufoo, which many farmers do. And that lets us, the thing that's so great about it is that we can send out information to people as they join for how they can pay, but it also allows us to build a spreadsheet in real time, and we do this in Google Sheets, so that as people start signing up, we have the list of members right away. So I'm curious what you think about the sign-up process. Are the things that, what are the most important things that we should think about as we think about what Just Food should be communicating? Are there people who have thoughts about this?
And I think we're a small enough group. I'll jump in and say you should be free to unmute yourself and just talk. we can also put it in the chat. I see Judy says Garden of Eve uses Farmigo, which has been around for a while. I know that's one that's been well used.
Yeah.
Other folks, and I don't know that everyone put in the chat if they're with a CSA or the farm, and I apologize, I don't have the registration info right in front of me. So for folks that haven't, if you could also let us know that, because I know we did have a couple of farmers sign up, but I don't know that they're on. Another Farmigo.
Are there people who have platforms that are not Wufoo or Farmigo?
Hi, this is Biana from Flatbush Farm Share CSA. I just wanted to say a couple of things. We had been using platform Forum Assembly for the past few years, but we're looking at actually moving possibly over to Airtable for the coming season. I also wanted to make the note that we do sliding scale for our shares. So having a system that we could easily incorporate that and have it run all the calculations for that would be really helpful. I don't know if you guys can speak to if Wufoo or Farmigo have that capability.
That's an interesting question. We figure out our sliding scale payment amounts offline before the start of the season and then enter them into Wufoo. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, and then I guess just a system that adds it all up, because we do veg and then fruit, which is optional, eggs, which are optional, and other kind of optional add-ons. So having a system also that can total all of those things up as people are filling it out would be really helpful.
Oh, yeah.
Wufoo can do that. I'm sure you guys use that. But yeah, they definitely can. And we also, I don't know if you, for Brooklyn Bridge, you can set up rules and we can allow people to pay by check and people to pay by credit card. So depending on what you select, you can have people pay the credit card fee, because we use Braintree for that, which we can get into a discussion about that. Yeah, go ahead, Marina. I see you.
I'm in the core group at the Forest Hill CSA. We had used Farmigo in the past. We just used Google Forms, and it self-populates a spreadsheet really easily. And what we've most recently done is just had people pay via PayPal. What our only options are a vegetable share and a fruit share. Plus we do have subsidized shares, but we have 2 levels of subsidized shares. So I just do the math and I double, triple check myself, and I can preset all the possible options in PayPal when I create the invoice. So it doesn't automatically create an invoice. There was no way really that I found that isn't, I think, quite expensive that would do all that. And it works fine for us. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer about any specifics on how we do things.
That is really good to know. And thank you for speaking up about sliding scale. I think that's something that we should probably go into a bit more detail about how you do the math. Sometimes the farmer will do that, but sometimes I don't know, our CSA does it ourselves. Do people, I'm just curious, do people do sliding scale for extra shares like fruit or eggs or other things, or just for the main veggie share?
We just do it for the vegetable share.
Okay.
Same for Flatbush.
Same for Farm Spot.
Are there other aspects of sign up that things you wish you had known when you started, or if you're a new CSA or looking to start a CSA, things that you would like to know?
Actually, I just see in the chat, Ruth, let me go back up here. Oh, Denise, have a workaround with Squarespace Stripe that allows people to pay via check and avoid the fee. I don't know if it's easy enough to go into, or just we know that and we can follow up with you, because for Brooklyn Bridge, we're looking at options rather than, because we're very piecemealed, as Ruth was talking about. We have Wufoo, and then we have Braintree, and then we have a separate website on WordPress and pay for no ads, like all these different things. And I feel like we could simplify. No, Squarespace is, you can get your domain, you can do all that within it, but we do want to allow people to pay by check. So
our IT person is pretty much a genius in this regard. So I know next to nothing about it, but I know that when the sale goes through by check, we have to, it's as if you put down that you're not paying. I mean, the way it handles it says that you're not paying anything. And then I have to follow up. I mean, people, they're supposed to pay within a week or two. There's more manual labor, but it allows people to save a lot of money. It's significant. The check fee, I mean, the credit card fee is about 3%, and Squarespace is all about selling online. So they do not allow you to avoid taking a credit card. You have to act as if it's a totally free purchase with no money involved. So it was a bit of a workaround, but it was important to us to have the check option. We don't allow checks during the year because we sell a lot of extras. So if you buy a $45 flat of strawberries, you have to buy it online, I mean, with a credit card. I'm the treasurer also, so I handle checks in the beginning of the year, but not throughout the year. And because we don't have we offer, we're hoping to offer 20 to 25% equity shares this year. And that would necessitate having a whole separate store with different pricing for equity. So we handle that manually. We have one price in our stores. Well, actually, we have two prices in our stores for our vegetable shares. One price with the 3% fee built in, and then one price without the 3% fee. So you choose, and people constantly make mistakes and they buy it in the credit card store, and, it's not easy. And so you sort of learn how to drive people where they're supposed to go, but it takes a lot of effort to be able to offer that option. That's what I'm saying. There's nothing about the system that makes it easy. So you need a motivated IT person who knows how to do it. And then you need people on the back end to keep track of whether the money came in or not. Stripe makes it very easy to see if your credit card payments came in and everything. But then I have to go and look and see if people actually, paid. But since they mail the checks to my house, that's not so hard.
Right. Does anyone use Venmo or Zelle or Pay Simple, some of the other online payment options that are out there?
I think that they will charge you a 3% fee for some of them. I mean, if you're a business, if your CSA is a business, and you try to pay with Venmo, you're still going to pay a 3% fee. It's only personal Venmo that doesn't have a fee.
How many people, I know, Denise, your CSA, you get paid and then you pay the farmer. But I'm curious, how many people set things up that way as opposed to setting things up so the farmer is paid directly?
I think it's entirely up to the farmer. It depends on what the farmer wants.
Yeah.
So maybe we can do a show of hands who has banking and then pays out their farmer, right?
Okay.
I know there's a bunch of folks not on screen.
But can I just interject that it's as Marina said, it's partially up to the farmer, but in our case, we pay rent for our distribution site. So it was sort of necessitated that we took in the money, cut a check to the farm, and then we pay rent to our host site.
I have heard of farmers who are willing to give you a check back with some of the monies if it's not a lot, but it's individual.
That's what Stone Ledge Farm does, is they allow the each site to set like an admin fee. So like we have them add like $10 on top of the share cost, and then in the fall sometime we get a check, and that helps us pay our rent too.
Right. It sounds as if there are a few ways of doing this. I mean, our group is also one of those that people sign up with us and our treasurers help them. They pay the farm directly, including the admin fee that goes to our CSA. At the end of the season, the farmer remits the admin fee to us, as well as if we have taken in any extra. And so basically our admin fees form the next season's budget for the Corps. So in the summer of 2022, we'll take in admin fees that will let us pay our rent in the summer of 2023. But, it's interesting to hear that there are different ways of doing things. And as we rework these tip sheets, we might actually ask some of you just to follow up on some of the ways of doing things that aren't the way our own CSAs work. So this is really, really helpful.
Kevin from Kew Gardens, Queens, and also Judy is here, and she's from Kew Gardens. Fortunately, Farm Ecosystem does a lot of the sign-up work and much more for the farm, which brings down costs. The Farm Eco thing just makes the farm efficient at what they do, meets their needs, and Eve, the farmer, knows how to use it. And we don't deal so much. We deal with our community. We deal with the people in Kew Gardens. Promotion, encouragement, spirit, all of that, the farmer grows and gets the stuff to us and we deal with it. But we do have money costs, and we have a bank account at Chase and we have a Zelle set up. So we take the admin fee ourselves because we were waiting too long for the farm to remit it to us for the season. We start asking on the first day and people come forth with it either through Zelle or some other way. We used to have PayPal, we're getting rid of it. But we're pretty clear on what's our job and what's the farm's job. And we do see them as very different. And over a few years, we've gotten pretty easy about it. Other than admin fees, we have grants. We get grants money. So we put that in our bank account, So having a bank account and having Zelle and working with the community almost exclusively is the way we like to do it. Thank you.
Can I just ask one clarification question, if I understood you right, Kevin? So you have, through Farmigo, and Judy, through Farmigo, the farmer accepts payments for the veggie share, the fruit, or whatever they're offering, and then you separately have folks pay you, have the members pay you an admin fee so that you can cover your costs. Interesting. See, even younger.
We had to fight for that because she used to bill it along with the sign up, and then she instituted her own admin fee. And we're saying, what? Farm admin fee? CSA, come on. And we can set the admin fee, we move it up and down. For COVID, we raised it. Now we're bringing it back down. But collecting an admin fee from, under 50 people, it's doable. People are very nice, Then the farm doesn't, have to touch it.
Mm-hmm.
We love the farm.
Yeah.
We want to do certain things ourselves.
Kevin, I'm in Briarwood. I'm Judy, but Briarwood and Kew Gardens are together. We work together, and I just wanted to add, when you were talking about sliding scale, Farmigo doesn't seem to have that ability, and the farm doesn't do that. But what she does do is there is a lower price if you pay by check. But you're giving her your checking account, routing number, and all of that. So I guess she takes off that 3% or whatever it is that you were talking about. So I just wanted to add that, Kevin.
But when we had Farmiga, we had just separate middle and low income vegetable shares, and we set the price. So it's definitely possible to do it on Farmiga. It's just an extra option.
Farmigo's pretty flexible and has gotten more flexible. You're right. All right.
Sonia.
I'm going to jump in and have Sonia, and then Lizbeth, I think, is next.
A couple of comments I want to make about Farmigo, and I'm not the person who runs it at all, but my understanding is that, as Marina said, you have to set certain share prices. So when people are talking about sliding scale, I'm not exactly sure what are you meaning? Like it could be like a price between X and Y, like all these different points in between, like many different prices. That I don't know if you could do with Farmigo, but for sure, like we usually offer 2 different subsidized share prices plus the full price. So we have 3, we just list all the shares we have, and then people check off whichever one, and then the Farmigo automatically charges that amount. I just wanted to say, I had a question for Kevin, and hi, Kevin, haven't seen you in years. I'm curious what grants, you said you got grants to cover your admin fees.
Oh, we got grants to cover our low income revolving loan program from where everyone goes, Citizens Committee for New York City, which is the best place for micro grants. And everyone should know about them and look into them.
No, for sure. We've gotten grants from them for like our compost program, but I was always under the impression they did not give grants for supporting subsidized shares, but has that changed?
They subsidized our revolving loan program. They gave us $2,500.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay. That actually sounds like a good segue to move on. Some of our list of topics is partly driven by what we see coming up on the core listserv from time to time. So banking and payment methods that's another topic that we're curious if people have questions about or thoughts.
Before we jump into that, Ruth, Lizbeth, did you still have something to go up with? Welcome, by the way.
I did. Hi.
And then very important.
I'm Liz from Angel Family Farm. We are in a very unique situation. We are the farmers and the CSA distributors. So we take direct payment from our customers, and we do drop off and we distribute our own vegetables. However, someone said that the farmer, I just wanted to put out there that this is a great idea. And if everybody could potentially get on the same schedule, I think it would make everybody's life really easy, where if a customer could pay the farmer directly and then the admin fees to you guys. I think I've never heard of it like that, but I just want to say that is brilliant. Whoever thought of that. And I didn't know. And if you can tell me the website or the organization that does the subsidized shares, that I would like to look into that, because we have a farmers market in Sunset Park, and we do some distributions there for some of our customers. Our CSA customers live in Sunset Park, which is the neighboring neighborhood from our actual location, and not all families in Sunset Park, it's still developing. So I would love to be able to offer subsidized shares through a mini grant, if that's possible. In the past, we've just had to raise our own money and just rely on donations. and whatever we have left over.
I just put it in the chat.
You.
Citizens Committee, and they actually do, if I recall correctly, I'll try and post it more on social media too. They do like intro, information sessions for their grant opportunities as well. So if you need that, they offer that regularly. So the social media is also really good to find out about them. But yeah, their 2022 All-In Neighborhood Grant and Neighborhood Business Grant applications are open now. So
Sometimes,
just want to interject.
sometimes, Shari, just to interject here, sometimes Shari, Citizens Committee New York City offers a matching grant program, sometimes paired with the Department of Health, where if you raise up to a certain amount of money, they will match you dollar for dollar. So sometimes you should look out for those. And since COVID, they've been doing some very interesting stuff. So that was a good call, Kevin. I appreciate that.
Hi, I'm Tunice, and I did attend those info sessions last year because I wanted to see if we could get any money for subsidized shares. And they do not fund subsidized shares. They don't fund shares directly, but maybe the workaround was the revolving loan program. But they will not give you money for subsidized shares. That was definitely the takeaway from my sessions with them.
got it. Thank you. I'll let Ruth lead us on the next topic. Thanking. Very
Thanking.
important.
Yeah, I know this is something that has come up from time to time where I think it is harder now to get a bank account if you're a new CSA than it was in the past. And I know I was very interested to hear, Sherry, that you actually use a credit union and found it easier to get an account there. So I'm curious if people have questions or ideas. Kevin, just hearing you talk about grants was so interesting, and that's definitely the kind of comment that is really, really helpful for us. If you have figured out a way to get banking accomplished or new ways of getting payment accomplished, we'd love to hear it. I mean, everyone,
Right.
in addition to you, Kevin. Or if you're having trouble with it and are looking for ideas, that is also good to know. I know that some farmers actually provide kind of a bank for their CSAs where they'll keep the funds sort of in escrow, the admin fees, and then when a CSA that does not have a bank account at all needs a check written, like for site rental or supplies, they'll simply write a check from the bank, from the farm's account. So that's another way of handling it if people don't have their own bank. Are there questions or observations about banking? Yes, Sonia.
I'll just make an observation. We feel very fortunate that we have a bank account, because my understanding is that today it's much harder for a CSA to get a bank account than it was when we first got ours. We actually lost our original bank account with HSBC years ago. I forget when. They got rid of all of their small business, like really tiny business customers. They literally broke up with us. They kicked us out. And we were very fortunate to get a local credit union, Astoria Savings Bank, take us on, which has now changed name. But what's awkward is that 3 of our core members signed up as the names on the account, and one of those people has moved out of state. He's no longer involved, and I'm petrified to change any of the names on the bank account. So we now today have a treasurer. It was the treasurer who moved out of state, who can't sign checks. So one of, the 2 other people, myself and one other person, are still on the bank account, and we can sign checks, and we have a treasurer who can't. So it's very awkward. but I'm petrified to rock the boat because I don't want to lose our bank account.
This came up with us last year as well. And for what it is worth, I discovered that we had a long gone core member as the major signatory on the bank account. And we have been bringing it up to date as treasurers come and go. And just last weekend, a new treasurer was added to our bank account, and it was fine. That's with Apple Bank.
Good,
So,
good to know.
Yeah, no, it's real. It seems very important that the names on your bank account be current, even though it is. I agree. It really was a little bit worrisome when we realized we didn't need to make that up to date.
Just want to say, I used to bank at Astoria Federal, and which then turned into Sterling, and you had to have everybody present to make any kind of change. So yeah, if somebody moves out of state, you were up a creek. We now bank at Amalgamated, and since we started banking there, they closed practically all their branches. It's just the branch at 14th Street and maybe one other. I don't even know where it is that exists. They used to be a great community bank, but since COVID, they've just closed up shop across town. So they gave us $1,000 grant one year, a community grant. That was another reason why we went to them. They were very community oriented. Now I think they're in survival mode. And they have a much inferior online banking system, much more time consuming for me as the treasurer to use Amalgamated, because Chase and Citibank are much more efficient with their deposits, mobile deposits. But I mean, so far we're sticking with them because I haven't got the strength to change to another bank.
Right. Other thoughts or ideas on banking or questions?
So I have a question. Hi, I'm Rita from LIC CSA. What type of account would you open? So a little background, LIC CSA, the treasurer, she actually passed away and last year, and I kind of just took over and just kind of finished out the season. I was able to refund everyone. We use Squarespace. So I was able to refund everyone, and those that continued with us, they either Venmo'd me, PayPal'd me, Zelled me the payment. We had a small group, and now, thinking I have the rest of the season, I have weeks, I don't have, I'll have time to think over banking. Now we're like weeks, maybe a few months away from the season. So I just don't know, hearing what you guys are saying, it's a little difficult to even open up an account, and even just researching myself, I need $2,500. Just the minimum just seems a little ridiculous. And yeah, I'm just kind of overwhelmed, and I'm just kind of seeking help here. And hi, Denise, nice to finally see you. Michelle tried to connect us.
Yeah. Hi.
I can jump in with, at least from my experience, is we are with the Brooklyn Co-op Federal Credit Union, or Brooklyn Federal Co-op Credit Union. I always forget because we've been a member with them for several years. And it was actually set up, I believe Kiana had reached out to them and basically went over the whole, like, this is what a CSA is. So there was a call out one time several years ago because we had been using a system through Just Food, and that was ending. So we needed to find something new. We also, the Brooklyn Bridge CSA, this is, I think, our 12th year. So we started at Chase, had to switch that because they couldn't figure things out, and then, or whatever we had set up wasn't working anymore. And then went to the Just Food method of it and then ended up needing to switch that. So we ended up at the credit union. There's only 2 branches of it, which are not near me, but because all I basically do is deposit checks, and I can do that via mobile, and write checks, which I have a checkbook for, I'm good. I've only been there, I think, twice, because I had to go to sign up, and then we were able to actually get part of the paperwork involved getting notarized letters from the rest of the core group at that time. So this is a problem. We're going to add another signatory, but I'm the only signatory right now, which has its own dangers. And we are going to add someone else. But for that system, that's what they required. So now when someone else needs to get added on, we have to go in person. But that's something on our to-do list. So that's working for us. I am going to reach out to them to see, if that's still an okay thing. I'm kind of in the same boat as someone mentioned, like I hesitant to rock the boat, so to say. Like we're just kind of like, we're existing, and there's always the fear that some rules will change. And I do want to talk about that. Someone had mentioned some back in the chat about structures, about organizing structures have changed and the laws around that. So that's kind of all to say, we're going to put together, and maybe we'll follow up with you guys. We'll check out the recording again, and put together like what we know are CSA friendly banks and kind of where we're at with some of them. I had heard that Apple was good a while back. So I think we were there for a bit, or we looked at them. So anyway, it's overwhelming, and it's not an easy task to change. So Kevin or Denise, I see you're both unmuted. I don't know if you had.
No, I just would advise, though, we have it at Chase. It's a business account. And they have rules and regs that they're supposed to go by. And the manager looked at my application and she said, well, here's the rule, but the rule is ambiguous. Let's pass him in. But they know me. So I would say when I bank, I don't always go to that debit card little ATM, because I make sure they know my name and I know their name. I know Sophia, I know Dan. And if they see you banking every day, I think they're friendlier when you walk in. If you walk in as a stranger, who is this person and what is a CSA? Those are little tricks, but they're supposed to go by their rules. And Chase, well, Glendale is at Chase, Kew Gardens is at Chase. I mean, you can argue that and say, you guys have CSAs on it. But I do think using the Just Food name and the Just Food umbrella should be something that would benefit us. And maybe there could be a letter made or something saying, this is what we are and this is what they are, and get on board. And the neighborhood people know us too. I mean, I'm known in the neighborhood. I will advise, though, if I didn't look like Joe Crowley, if I wasn't this old gray-haired white man, things could have gone in a different direction. And that's the reality and truth of the world. So who knows? And
I just want to say, I agree with Kevin. We have an account at TD Bank. At the time, Paula Lukatz was in charge of Just Food, and she recommended them because she heard of a few CSAs who had good luck. And, I really think it probably depends on the individual branch. At first, when I walked in, I wasn't sure what they were going to say, and they left the desk that we were sitting at and went to speak to a supervisor. The supervisor came over, they asked some questions. I gave them Paula's number. So I think if Just Food could have a formal letter, I think that would help a lot. Because now if I couldn't give them someone's phone number who I know is in charge of Just Food has changed so much, so it's not that simple anymore. I think it would be a lot harder. And, then it took me a while to find a person to co-sign on the account. Just if, God forbid, something happens to me, the CSA needs to be able to access it. So finally, when I found somebody else to co-sign with me, who wasn't my husband, he was willing to do it, but I just thought that didn't look good. We went in, and at first they didn't want to add him because it was after 9/11. And they then said, well, we'll have to speak to our supervisor and get back to you. And then it was very weird. All of a sudden, he was added to the account and they never officially notified us. So one never knows, but definitely try if you already have a relationship with a bank. The only thing I recommend is if you have a personal account, to keep the CSA and the personal account completely separate. You know, TD Bank wanted me to be able to access them together on the website. And I said, no, I absolutely refuse. I don't ever want to make that kind of a mistake. You know, unfortunately, I also have a personal PayPal account and the CSA PayPal account. But I also, you know, have completely different passwords and so forth, just so that I won't confuse them myself. And I keep my bank card for the CSA out of my wallet. So I'm just taking it if I intentionally need to have it. So.
This is all really helpful. And Rita, I don't know if you're on the Just Food Core Directors listserv, the listserv that Just Food maintains for core members. But if you are and you have questions as you go about setting this up, please come back to us and we can help. You know, this webinar isn't the only point of contact. You know, please speak up if you need more help. I think one of the things, and this speaks a lot to what Kevin's been saying, you know, if you can call a bank, or you can walk into a bank and get an actual human to talk to you and give you advice. You know, one of the things about Apple Bank, which is what has their account, is that they actually answer their phone with a human, and a human is a branch as opposed to a faceless 800 number. So that might be the kind of place that will help. Just because time's passing, and I want to move on to insurance. And I know this is something that some CSAs deal with it, some don't, and it's directly tied to whether the distribution site requires it of you. I know that some farmers extend their farm insurance to CSAs if it's necessary, and some don't. Is this an issue that people are having problems with or want to talk about? Hi, Denise.
Yes, definitely. We lost our site because of COVID. We've had various sites, and now a new site that I'd like very much for us to be able to use. It's outdoors in a big parking lot, but it's in the Catholic Church. It's really only churches that seem to have space these days. And it's very hard to find ground floor indoor space. So we're prepared to continue to be outdoors, but the Catholic Church is requiring that I list the church, the bishop, the future bishop, and somebody else. And my farm we have Hepworth Farm at Dutch Kills CSA, and they would add our CSA as an additional insured under their own liability policy, but that's not good enough for the Catholic Church. They want me to get a policy, and it's taken a long time to get quotes. I finally got a quote, and it is at first it was for 500. And then when I corrected the agent who had assumed my gross sales were 1,500, and I said, no, it's close to 100,000. It's actually a little more, I think. At any rate, he said, I mean, that tripled the price of the insurance. And so now insurance would cost us $62.50 a week for our distribution. So I'm shopping for insurance because something that I thought was going to be 500 and be manageable is now 1,500, and you know, like a waste of money, really. And it's very hard to find insurance companies that know. I mean, nobody knows anything about what a CSA is. I think they think we're a store, no matter how many times you tell them. It's not. They don't get it.
Can I just interject really quickly, Denise?
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously you're not making sales. You're taking that money in and then you're sending most of that money to the farm. And I wonder if the insurance company can't comprehend that, if you could contemplate what Kevin and Lisbeth brought up, the idea of your members paying the share price directly to Hepworth and then you only taking in an admin fee. It might just be something to think about. I don't know if that seems doable to you, because then you're taking in a fraction of the amount of money.
Hepworth is a very value-driven farm with horrible bookkeeping, as far as I'm concerned. And I would never entrust the bookkeeping aspect kind of to them.
Got it.
Anastasia from Carnegie Hill CSA. So we found, so our farm gave us the contact information for their insurance agent a few years ago. And after explaining to him, like, he knows what the farm did, he didn't really know what each CSA site does. And he figured out a plan for us that covers the space when we're there. It sort of works like we're a farmer's market, but we don't make sales. And I can give you his contact info. Our policy is $500 a year.
Oh, that's much better. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. And you can tell him, you know, that you heard about it on like the CSA forum. You feel free to give him my name so that he knows that you guys should get the same policy. I'll put it in the chat right now.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
That's great.
Yes, thank you. That's amazing. Yeah, and I was gonna bring up the same sort of topic. Like, it's, yes, you take in money, but you're actually not keeping it. Like, you're, you know, it's a weird thing. I have a whole brain tree story with the IRS and taxes and things like that, but I won't get into that unless we need to, because I know we're moving things along. But yeah, I feel like you should definitely not have to pay that much. That's crazy. So thank you. That's awesome.
Yes.
Any other questions or comments on insurance? Okay, I want to actually
I
jump.
just wanted to know, how many people have to have insurance? Could we just, a show of hands? So I'm not seeing everybody at once. Is that like half?
It's
Not sure.
No, it at least half, it looks like, about close. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're yeah.
Okay, thanks.
I want to jump to a topic on our agenda that is really, really important, and that is initiatives around SNAP and EBT payment. I know we've talked a bit about sliding scale, which is based on income, and I think most CSAs do some form of it, but the business of the logistics of how you set yourselves up to take EBT payments and work with members who are eligible is really important. So I know in our case, our farmer is set up to take EBT payments, for which we're very grateful. I'm curious what people have to say about it, or if you have questions or comments about this. Yeah, Sonia. Or sorry, Judy, I think you spoke up first.
Okay, yeah, I raised my hand. Yeah, this is very near and dear to my heart. We're trying to get it going now for Briarwood and Kew Gardens eventually. And the farmer hasn't set it up. So I believe it takes a very long time to set it up through the USDA. It takes months, and we've been asking her to set it up for a couple of months. She's kind of dragging her feet, I think, a little bit. I don't know, or maybe the USDA is dragging their feet. I don't know. But what I want to know is, what do you do, especially Ruth, since you said that your farmer is in charge of it? What do you do for the farm to get the farm paid by the federal government?
I am not actually. I'll just say very quickly, our farmer is, as I said, he's the one who set up. Our treasurers work with the members who pay with EBT. Typically, where most of our members pay either all at once at the start of the season or in 3 payments, we let members who are EBT eligible pay once a month or sometimes once every 2 weeks. So our treasurers are the ones who work with them and make sure they have the funds. As far as what the farmer does to get paid by the federal government, I can't answer that. Tahira, do you want to talk about this a bit?
Yes, sure. Hi, everyone. Sorry I didn't get the chance to introduce myself earlier. My name is Tahira Cook, Policy Advocacy Chair with the Just Food Board. So when your farmer is signing up for SNAP and EBT, he's typically, or they are typically going to use a Mobile Market Plus app, which basically is like a swipe function that allows them to swipe debit, credit, as well as EBT that is linked directly to their. So when wiping and getting paid, that money should be going directly to the farmer if they're registered with the USDA. So it would be a little bit hard as a middle person, like a CSA, accepting payments and just doing it through the farmer. I'm not 100% sure if somebody else can speak to this, but typically what I've seen is if it's going through the farmer, typically those transactions are handled by the farmer directly.
I can speak to this on the logistics end. What we do is we actually have a tablet that we bring to distribution every week. And for our EBT payers, they will bring their card. We have that app that Tahira mentioned on the tablet, and we process those payments in person at distribution each week.
Yeah, and so from that app would typically be linked to, so that's my question. The app is linked to your account to accept EBT?
It's linked to the farmer's account.
Yeah, so that's how it works. It has to be the person who's in charge. Now, as a middle person, like a CSA who is accepting all the payments and then giving a check to the farmer at the end, you would have to get your own FNS number and your own app to set that up.
So thank you. That's really helpful. So we just have to wait for the farmer to do it all, I guess, in our case.
Are there any CSAs here who work with a nonprofit that can take the EBT payments? I know, I think this was common in the past, and I'm not sure if it still is.
I have another question.
But I'm wondering, Richard, it looked like maybe you had your hand up or you were just agreeing?
No, I'm just agreeing. We work with a nonprofit that takes all of our payments.
One question I had, thank you, is for those that do take payments at your distribution, is there like someone, maybe the treasurer, or there's someone that needs to be there to physically swipe the card? Is that correct? Like you have to plan that into staffing distribution?
Yes, one of our volunteers weekly is set up there to do that.
And it also depends. So when I used to be with the state, we used to instruct our sites. I think the rule by law for the USDA is that when you're using EBT, you have to receive the product within 14 days of the swipe. So if, they can still pay ahead of time. So if the pickup is like next week and you want to swipe them now, you can also swipe them ahead of time if they have the funds, and then have them pick up without having to pay that following week. It just depends on how, your CSA is set up.
I just want to add.
No worries. Go ahead.
When I was on the citizens of New York, like a prep discussion for applying to be able to have your CSA take food stamps. There are grants that you could get from New York State, which would allow you to pay for that staff person. You can't get any money to pay for the shares themselves, but they will help fund, getting the machinery. I don't know if it's $500 or whatever for that EBT machine, and they will give you money if you get a grant to pay for the cost of somebody to be there to process every 2 weeks the deductions for EBT. But it was just a whole magnitude of complication that I found it easier just to underwrite the shares by half rather than to go through the food stamp process. It's just it's not that easy for a CSA that you want to sort of minimize who has to be in a certain place at a certain time. Like if you have to, it's great if you have a staff person, but then you have an employee. I mean, it just gets complicated.
Yeah, I can speak to that too, because I used to run one of those programs at the state. So yeah, it is important to note that the funding, even for the staff person, is on a reimbursement basis. So like I don't know the status of the grant now because I'm no longer with them. But there is a $10,000 capacity building grant, which is all around covering the cost of staff and folks who would typically volunteer to be able to, then coordinate their CSA site. However, it would be on a reimbursement basis. So you would have to kind of prove receipt that staff person has been paid in order to receive the funds from the grant.
Yeah, it was just way more effort than benefit, I thought.
Other thoughts on SNAP EBT payment or subsidized shares? Because that is I think you made an important point, Denise, that, what's ideal is to have the capacity to accept EBT payment, whether through either your farm or a nonprofit or in some other way, but not everyone can do that at all times. So subsidized shares are another way of reaching people who might not be able to afford the full price. Are there questions about that or comments about how you're handling that? I know there's a lot of variety in how CSAs handle this.
I saw in the chat earlier, someone was wondering about how you handle fundraising and or donations. And I just want to say that I didn't want to undertake to have a whole fundraising component because that's even more effort. And I wear too many hats and I'm trying to minimize how much I have to do. So we made it a point to get shares to have a farmer that gives really good value, and Hepworth does. And so we just built in a cost. We just built in an extra $2 on a box of vegetables so that our vegetables are still very affordable, and we don't have to have a whole fundraising apparatus. So we found a few ways through our pricing structure. We increased our admin fee, and we dedicate at least $5 from every admin fee. Our admin fee is $35. It was last year. We haven't talked about what it needs to be for this year, but it'll probably stay at $35. So $5 is guaranteed to equity shares. And each over the course of the year, if we have 24, almost $50 per share will come as a donation to equity. And from the fruit, I think maybe $10 from every fruit share. So that gives us enough money so that we can underwrite. Last year, we underwrote I think 24 shares at half price. So, and some shares, we had a partner who Queens Collective Cares, and they paid the other half. So 20 people got totally free shares in the community between what we gave and what Queens Community Share gave. So that to me is like a fairly efficient way to fund it. We also allow people to donate on our site when they sign up, or at any time they can go and make a donation of whatever amount they want. But when you buy your vegetable shares, we have an option, a prompt that will ask you, do you want to donate $5, $10, or $25? There's, you can scroll down and choose if you want to make a donation when you're joining. So that we're looking for ways that can make people aware of how easy it is to give without having to have make a lot of entreaties to people and to have it manage itself. But I will say I have been remiss. I have to work on a transparency page so people understand on our website what we've done with the pricing. Our shares were lower, significantly lower in cost, so we didn't really have to worry about driving up the price that, as much as we did, $2 a box, because it was still an incredibly good value. And of course, for the equity people, we don't charge them, we only charge them a cost. So we're just working on the cost of the share, we don't factor in any markup cost, of course, in the way we price our equity share.
That's really helpful. Other people with other ways of handling underwriting some of the shares, other ideas or questions?
I see Judy had a question in that other folks may also want. It's going back a little bit to the SNAP and what cost does the CSA have for the SNAP? So I don't know if in general, but then also if your farmer is the one that's going through the farmer, then is there any cost? I'm looking at you, Ruth, or other folks that have it. Do you guys have to pay anything in order to be able to do that? Or you just have to manage the people, be able to staff it to accept the payment?
We don't pay anything. I don't even know if there are associated costs with the farmer, but I know that we don't pay anything. So for us, working with our customers who are EBT eligible or SNAP eligible is just about managing the payments and making sure they have a friendly face on our end, and that we're doing everything we can to be sure they're valued members of the community. We don't charge admin fees for the people who are at the SNAP eligible tier. And we're also a little bit more forgiving of the volunteer requirement, just because I know if you're SNAP eligible, sometimes you also might be working crazy work hours and have other challenges in your life. So, we mostly want to retain those members as much as possible. One thing that actually helped us, it sounds awful, but COVID brought in more EBT eligible members. But the other thing that helped us to bring in was more low-income members is when we started offering half shares, because people who found themselves overwhelmed by having a share every week could cope a little bit more easily with every other week share. So that actually, surprisingly to me, helped us bring in more low-income members. Other thoughts or comments?
I saw there were some comments in the chat, and folks, feel free to write that as well. If you want to just note things, we'll share out, follow up some notes and links and helpful documentation. Yes, Sonia.
I'd like to respond to Judy's question about how do you determine who gets the free equity share. Oh, actually, I misunderstood that. Judy, did you mean the free equity share or any subsidized share?
Denise, I think, mentioned that they were able to afford to give
Yeah.
a free share or an equity share. I don't remember what
She said, yeah, they could give 20 totally free shares. I kind of misunderstood your question about, I just saw the part about how do they prove they should get it.
Right. So how do you go about giving it to people? How do you know who gets it?
Well, in our CSA, we've always had subsidized shares, and we've always used the honor system. So we've always felt like it's not our place to question people. I mean, who are we? And so we post the government's, like the official standard of living, cost of living chart. And so if we, for example, have 2 different levels of subsidized shares, we'll put on our website or on the sign up form. If you make this much, if your household makes X amount, then you're eligible for this level of subsidized share. And if you make this much, you're eligible for this subsidized share. And we trust people to be honest.
We do exactly the same. We've never asked for documentation. If someone says they are eligible for that payment level, we take them on their honor. And some people who are EBT eligible, choose to pay cash, which is fine, or a cash equivalent. We're actually running out of time, and there are many other topics that we could bring up. But, are there topics that you want to raise as important to you? Either things you have questions about or things that you want to tell us that we need to know? And actually, I have a question. Has anybody ever approached your local city council person for funding for either low-income shares or other kinds of help? Yes, Sonia. Yes.
We, many years ago, got discretionary funds from our state senator. We got,
Interesting.
It was a very mixed story. We got $5,000 and we had to find a nonprofit to be the fiscal partner.
Okay.
And they took a percentage. And then we didn't get the money for literally years. And we had to badger their office like over and over, but and everyone else lost faith. And I'm like, nope, I'm not giving up. We're going to get that money. They gave us that money. We're going to get that money. And we finally did get that money. It literally was years. It was crazy. But yes, because states, I guess they all have a certain amount of discretionary funds. And yeah, so we had a very mixed experience.
What about at a more local level on city council? Anybody working with those elected officials? No. Okay. Interesting.
Can I jump in, Ruth? Because there was one comment, and I apologize if I missed other comments that we haven't addressed, but I would like to hear from Biana, if you're able to expand on, you had mentioned that some of the rules had changed around structure.
Yes. Okay. I am not the expert, but I will do my best to relay. We have a member on our finance team who made us aware. Essentially, when we started the CSA and first opened a bank account, it was like willy-nilly, do whatever you want. You don't have a formal legal entity. It's all good, whatever. And we are needing now to switch banks to, as people mentioned, like add additional signatories. People have left the core team and the CSA and the state. So we need to make changes. And because we we pass through. So people pay us directly and then we pay the farmers. As Denise mentioned, like we have a lot of money passing through this non-entity. And so in order for us to be able to go to a new place and say, hey, we'd like to open a bank account. No, we're not a business. We're kind of a nonprofit, but we don't have a 501c3. Like we actually have to get those things in place in order to make those structural changes. And my understanding, like New York State used to allow these kind of informal entities to exist, but the rules had changed in the past couple of years. So we need to like formalize into a 501c3 is what I have been informed.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I just want to say Dutch Kill CSA, this will be our 6th year. So we are a fairly new CSA. I was part of Astoria CSA for, I don't know, 12 years or something, or a long time before that. Because we were new, we basically had to incorporate, and we chose to incorporate as a not-for-profit. And it was not an easy process, but we knew equity was important to us, and we wanted to be able to turn the money over, to keep our money at the end of the year and not have to pay taxes on it, so that we would have the equity funds to fund shares, in 2022 from the money that we raised in 2021. So it was a complicated decision, and I worked with a lawyer to figure out what form to incorporate. But banks, the regulations have changed, and you basically, if you want to be totally above board, you have to incorporate to get a bank account these days for something like a CSA, unless you can go to a community bank that will bend the rules for you.
Kevin.
Yeah, I was member of Greenpoint Williamsburg around 2014 or so. We incorporated, yes, it was a whole season-wide effort, almost a nightmare. We regretted it, and I will advise just from my heart, it's not for a CSA, folks. Stay small, stay innocent, stay community, stay local, because what happens is you get swallowed up into something. And it's the nonprofit corporate complex, constantly raising funds, constantly trying to promote yourself. It's Just Food got itself caught up in some of that, and I think it moved away from some of that, constantly having to do certain things that aren't really your mission. It takes energy, and it does something. So I don't mean to get on a soapbox, but if you can keep it simple and local and neighborhood and innocent, and then you're not going to get some things. I know some people say, are you a 501c3? No, we're not. We chose not to be. And I just want to advise people that is a choice. Thank you.
I just want to say, I don't think it's changed who we are. Our focus is still completely on food, and it allows us to accomplish our goals. And since equity funds are a big part of our mission, it was the best legal way to do it. We have to have a board meeting once a year, but we have a very small board, and we don't have to impose any of the corporate or culture on our CSA. I think that we are still the CSA we would be if we weren't incorporated. It is an extra burden for me, though, I'll say that.
I think that this discussion brings in the 3 strands that are so important for all of us, and that, we're trying to keep in mind for the toolbox as we retool it literally for the future. And one is, we are face-to-face entities. We're community-based. We're, our great strength, aside from having excellent food, is the people relationships in our community. At the same time, we need to figure out ways and share information to make the logistics of running a CSA as smooth and easy to use as possible. And that's what we want to try and do with the toolbox. And we also want to be sure to include all members of our community, no matter what their ability to pay. So, you know, for what's important to me as someone who's both running a CSA and involved with Just Food is, you know, community, let's make everybody's life easier, or that's what I hope we can do with our job with Just Food. And let's remember everybody and make sure that we can get CSA to all people in the community. So that's okay. Now I'm getting off the soapbox, and we're getting close to the end of the evening too. Any other thoughts from anybody about anything?
I have a question again.
Judy.
This is very simple. Is there anything on the Just Food website that we have to do to update or something?
Yes, Judy, actually, you have led into the closing comments section of the evening. Thank you for that. Unprompted, by the way. There was no behind the scenes magic. No, we send out the survey every year. And last year, I know it probably was not as aggressive about getting that out to you guys. I know folks did sign it up, or you know, did fill it out to adjust what's on the website, and that'll be coming out again within probably the next couple of weeks, and then we'll work to get those updates as soon as we can. You know, it's either me or usually one of our interns that does those. So, you know, get them live and going. How many have started registration already? Show of hands. Anyone? Anastasia? Wow. We're still a couple weeks out yet, but I know we try to get you guys all set with anything new. If you already, you know, see something that absolutely needs to be changed, please just email the advisory. I'll put the just email me. Don't wait for the form. If you know something now, then just you can email me anytime throughout the year if something changes through your from your listing, because we definitely want to have the most current we know of. It's just also dependent on you folks to let us know. We just don't have the capacity to research everyone. So that's our email. So let me see what my checklist is for closing comments, unless was there any other questions?
I want to say one thing, just how great it is to see Just Food, you know, focusing on CSAs in this way, because, you know, it's been a few years since I felt the love and the warmth from Just Food. So it's great that you guys are doing this, making it happen. And I'm very heartened and I really appreciate it. So thank you to the advisory board and to Just Food for stepping up in this way. It means a lot to a lot of people.
Well, thank you. Thank you for those comments. We do appreciate it. And we are doing our best to step up and be the support system again. That being said, if there are folks that are interested in joining at, you know, either an advisory level or something like that, please also email us and we can talk. That's where Ruth in the last year came on board to help, because, you know, we're volunteers too. So this is at least advisory is volunteers and board are also volunteers. So so the survey is coming out. I think most of you know there's the Just Food Network. So will also be part of our thing is the network with fees, which we haven't been always reinforcing, but we'll have an email out about, you know, if you're on the map, there is donations that we usually ask for. And that's not always me personally, not my strongest point is asking for donations, but that does help fund, you know, our work. So there's that. And then our next steps are, you know, we'll have this recording. We're going to work on getting these resources back out to you guys. And if you guys think of other things that you were wanting to say or, you know, post meeting, please do email us, because we, as Ruth said, are looking for, you know, all the information. We can't possibly know what everybody's doing because there's so many options these days. And that's why we are very thankful that all of you were able to join us. We hope you know, found some value and found some tidbits that you didn't know before. We appreciate all of your time I definitely want to I was looking at Cheryl. Thank Cheryl and Tahira and Ruth, especially for leading us through this fantastic discussion.
One thing I wanted to say, Sherry, that we should, since we're updating the toolbox, is to update our network and timelines around the next iteration of the toolkit, because I think a lot of the information in here is going to be very helpful to us doing our research and updating all the tip sheets and all the information. So we just shouldn't be silent. We should let people know what's in the works and when it's coming down the pipeline.
That's a very good point. Ruth and I think are leading the toolbox redesign. So that's on our list to do. So we'll be in touch as we develop our goals. Because as you can imagine, I think it was 2004 we figured out that was last really done. If you all can imagine, there's a lot of changes. This is not, and it was like 200, 300 pages. So it's not a small task, but we are seeing the need, and you all have helped support that need and support that information. So great.
Thank you.